many people want to be here? A lot of conferences your boss sends you, like, go to this conference, I paid for it already. The last time I got asked this question about the future of our industry or software, I decided to retire. 42 years old, I had surfed a lot of the waves. The DevOps wave, configuration management wave, the container wave, the Golang wave, the Kubernetes wave. I was like, it doesn't stop. And there's this saying that it's not a race, it's a marathon, and that's wrong. You can't run forever. It's a relay race. You need to figure out how to pass this off to someone else. And usually the someone else needs mentoring, and ideally you do that in a way that they get a running start. You don't want to pass the baton when you're dead tired. And so at 42, I decided that I still had a lot left in me, but I would pass the baton. And I'm lucky that my daughter is one of those people to stand there and receive it. She's 17, she's in college for computer science, and she texts me all the time, Dad, I love this database class I'm taking. I was like, keep that energy. You're gonna need it, because it's gonna be your turn to run really, really quickly. And she does ask me things like, Dad, is this industry still going to be worth going to school for? And I have to be honest with her. It's like, I don't know. Things change all the time. And she's like, what should I do? I was like, well, the people who do the best at predicting the future are the ones who work on it. Everybody else is just guessing. That's it. The people building things decide, and you wait on them. You can nudge the future, bug reports, you can complain on the internet, but it's the people who look at that stuff that actually fix it, they decide. So I've told her that she should learn how to build things so she could decide. And she could probably create a job for herself if she thought the situation was dire. And I thought about how would I answer this question, what's the future? And the truth is, I don't know. But if I was being very honest, I actually don't care. And people's like, what? How? It's very liberating not to care. And I think any idea has a shot. I work with a lot of startup founders, and I'm like, look, anything can work at this point. Execution matters more than anything else. And it's the part where I help them solve their own Rubik's Cube that still has me excited. Whether they solve it or not, whether you like the way they solved it or not, is less interesting to me these days. So instead of answering the question, I'm going to show you my thought process that I've used over the last 2 decades of being in this industry, because I think it's more useful than me guessing like the rest of them. I'm going to leave a lot of time for Q&A because for the first time in my career, I have nothing to sell you. I work for no one where it matters what I say, so you're going to get the most transparent version of Kelsey ever. What I've noticed a lot in the industry is people, have you ever seen kids play, you call it football here, right? Soccer, that's what we call it in the States. But have you seen kids play soccer? What do? They all chase the ball at the same time and they just cluster together. And all the coaches on the sideline, what the hell are they doing? No strategy, no matter how many games they watch, no matter what you try to tell them, their natural instinct is to go where the ball is. And I look at grown people in the enterprise, they do exactly the same thing, any new idea that comes out. They all run to the same ball pretty much. You can't miss it. This thing is coming, you don't want to be a laggard. And then they all run to the same ball. It's like, wow, they've been doing this long and they still don't understand the strategy. I remember, around 2004, the MapReduce paper came out. The whole idea around big data, some people read this paper and get super excited, oh, this is the future. And we read these white papers as if they provide a peek into the future. Anyone look at some of these aspirational white papers that way? It's like, wow, I've never seen this before. This must be what people will do in the future. So this is written by Jeff Dean and his partner Sanjay. They talk about how Google was dealing with big data. Most people don't even have big data, but they still aspire to this problem, which is very odd to me. It's like when you see new medication on TV and you don't have that disease, you don't want it. It's like, I don't want that problem. But for some reason in tech, people see big problems and they want to have that problem so they can solve it. I'm not sure why that works that way. And so a whole industry, so 2 years later, 2004, you guys remember Hadoop? Some of you are still using Hadoop. Who's still using Hadoop? Someone just signed their contract for their new Hadoop cluster. And you're like, oh, I'm gonna do this MapReduce thing, and it took a long time to get there. And then a lot of enterprises are fairly slow in adoption. It takes them about, 8 to 10 years from idea, maturity, procurement, then you get to try it. So in that 10 years' time, there was a Google I/O. This is right around the time I joined Google in 2014. And if you were paying attention, you're in the middle of your big data Hadoop install, and then they did this announcement, and not a lot of people caught it. Google talked about this thing called data flow. And this is Google saying, we don't do MapReduce anymore. The people are still in your data center installing the Hadoop cluster. And Google's like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. And when I saw that happen, I was like, oh, these white papers are not a peek at the future, they're a review of the past. Usually like 10 years old, to the point where you can now summarize it. And I remember, the data flow paper comes out and a lot of people ran to the same soccer ball. We repeated the process. And I remember there was this Twitter post where Ors is like, rest in peace, MapReduce. Google doesn't even use it anymore. We've deleted all the last remaining components of that code base. In just 10 years, it went from the future to why would you do that? And I've seen this cycle time and time again. And then people ask me like, hey, what's the future going to look like? The truth is none of this stuff gets completely deleted. I think the software industry is moving closer to the fashion industry. People walk around and say, wow, that's a really nice Kubernetes that you're wearing. I was like, oh yeah, you can get one too. And before you know it, everyone's walking around with their own Kubernetes. Why are you wearing that? It's the summer. It's like, I don't know, it looks nice. So it's very fashionable. And so I remember the first time I encountered this concept of fashion in the tech industry is when Ruby came out. And when Ruby came out, I was like, why do we need another programming language? We already have Perl. You can do everything. And Ruby was about the taste, how the syntax looked when you wrote it. Like they talked a lot about the way that Ruby looks on the page, how you read it, how you express yourself, as if that was the most important component to this particular syntax. And then so you get these people that create programming languages based on their own style, their own taste. And then something happens. You get people recreating all the standard libraries, how to do all the things. And what I've noticed too when I was at Google for about 8 years, anytime something new came out, and when you deal with the enterprise, they say it in so many words, make the new thing work the old way. Like Kubernetes is great, but you need to work with all the other stuff that we have. And so you realize that you can't just change everything. I remember one time Microsoft tried to move the start menu from the bottom left corner. And the whole world revolted. Like, hey, what are you doing? It must stay there forever. And so they put it back because humans won't allow things to evolve that fast. You have to meet people where they are, then you show them what's next. And so taste and syntax turns into standard libraries that then turn into frameworks. Anybody know Ruby on Rails? Some people still use Ruby. Ruby on Rails is fine, actually, right? GitHub IPO'd using Ruby on Rails, right? But the thing about Ruby on Rails that was interesting is they took all the chaotic patterns of the day and gave you one framework that you can install and get all the practices. I won't say best, just get all the practices at the time in one framework and one SDK. And so the reason why I'm showing you all these phases is because they just keep repeating themselves. New programming language comes out, everyone goes on Hacker News, same thing as before, but written in Rust. And then we create all the standard libraries, and then the frameworks show up. And then a new piece of technology shows up, and if you're paying attention, you can tell what's going to happen. So whatever new thing that is out today, more than likely we're probably in the syntax era. Someone's going to show up and give you the standard library error. And the people that really know where the bugs are, they'll create the frameworks. They'll make it actually easy to use. And then the hype will die, because then it will just work. And once things start to work, that's when we stop talking about them. They're not as interesting anymore. Anyone been to a TCP/IP conference lately? They don't have those, because it works. So if you want to know when it works, it's when they stop talking about it. That's when it works. Old software, how long does this stuff last? I was researching this, and it turns out that there's this reservation system that the airlines uses from Sabre. And anyone know when this software was originated, when it came out? My mom wasn't born yet. 1960, and they still have new releases of this software. And so this stuff still sticks around longer than any of us would expect. And it's so interesting that anyone use that phrase, legacy software? I don't know why we say it. Anything that does really well for a long time, we call that Hall of Fame. A lot of my peers are starting to age. And this idea that things have a shelf life is starting to backfire. They're on the other side of that table now, and they realize that younger people are afraid to hire their future selves. You can't be that good at that age. And so it has me rethinking like this concept of the future and the past. Most people are literally just recreating the past over and over again. It tends to be the ones that don't understand the history that believe that they're creating the future if they would only expand their timeline. Now, the good thing about this is you can nudge the future. And this is the thing I like about open source so much. When I left Puppet Labs, I'm like, you know what? Configuration management is a dead end. And I knew in 2012 it was a dead end because I started seeing companies write more configuration management code than the application code that they were attempting to manage. Like, this is backwards. There's no reason for this. And so when containers came out, I built this little project called Confi, and it was my attempt to simplify the new world, right? This idea of creating the future, because I was working on it. And I remember going to FOSDEM, open source conference in Europe, and I watched someone that I never met give an entire talk about Confi. Never met this person. I'm standing in the back of the room. It was like, hey guys, the future of configuration management is Confi. And I'm in the back like, damn, no one told me? And I watched him be so excited about someone just rethinking the status quo. And he just jumped in and started contributing. And I'm like, oh, this is what it's like to determine what the future looks like. You have to ship something. And I tried to do it again. And so this project got pretty popular. But then the project that got the most popular was this project called No Code. And I remember I was a distinguished engineer at this time, and I was talking to a customer, and they were showing me their new microservices stack. I was like, this again. And they were like, Kelsey, how would you do it? I was like, you know what? There is too much code, and I wish the next framework would involve no code. I was like, well, Kelsey, how does it work? So I published this repository. And just like kids chasing the soccer ball, people went to the repository and were looking for this new thing that Kelsey was creating. And I'm going to walk you through the tutorial. But the pitch is, this is the best way to write secure and reliable applications. You write nothing and deploy nowhere. This is the framework to end them all. And you go through the tutorial. It's very easy to write. And I have code examples here just to make sure you understand that it's real. So you can get started. So you start by writing nothing. And it's always easy to show the simple applications at events like these. But I want to show you that you can add new features too by basically doing nothing. And it goes on, and I'm having a good time. And someone asked, how do you contribute? And I was like, you don't. But people tried to, so I had to create this contribution guide. All changes are welcome as long as no code is involved. If you run into any bugs, file an issue and explain how that was even possible. And then if you look at the open issues, there's 4,000 issues. There's 62,000 GitHub stars. And I was like, man, this is the perfect time to raise money for a startup around no code. We can at least ship t-shirts. And I went through all the issues, and I remember there was someone who was like, hey, Kelsey, I'm an engineering manager at company X, and I would like you to take this repository down. It's causing a lot of distraction to my engineers. I was like, how is that my problem? And so I went to go look at the issues and see, like, what could people be distracted by? So I click on something, oh, no money, these are new. People are, this is 2 days, this is 10 years old, and people are still. If you fork this repository, what are you doing with it? Like, I don't. And so I remember looking at the first issue, and this person said, hey, each time I attempt to run no code, it says file not found. What am I doing wrong? Do you consult for dollars on getting this running in my organization? And I thought about it, I was like, yeah, that could be a thing. And I was like, hey, yes, you need to upgrade to the enterprise version. And I'll get you a contact form. And people were really upset with me that I was going to have an enterprise version of the no-code repository. But then the thing that inspires me the most about our tech community is that the number of people that came in to help. This is why I truly believe anything is possible, even nothing. But I am going to try to answer one thing that I think is going to be super important. We've gotten away with a lot as quote-unquote engineers. We're probably not engineers in the classic sense of the word. All the responsibilities, the training, all the classical things that true engineers have to do. And when I was at Google, I saw something that I thought was going to be very different about how you go about writing software. Open source has been a godsend. But when you sit back and think about the nature of open source, you have no idea who's building this software, and yet you put it in production almost blindly. Your CI/CD platform is like pull everything from the internet until the bill works. Then you scan it with all the security tools you buy, and as long as it's green, you put it in production and give it access to everything. And you will do that blindly forever. And then there was a bad thing that happened. I won't mention the company name. They've dealt with enough embarrassment from the situation. But the salsa framework was created. And it sounds really good on paper, this idea that, hey, we need to have a secure supply chain. And what's involved in that is something that I think is going to change the way software development happens. And I don't know if it's a net positive, but it's something to think about. When you think about the software supply chain, the thing we've ignored as an industry for a long time is the producer. Who is building the software? Most people don't even use their real names. As long as the code looks good, it gets merged and off it goes. And as long as you have the source code, a lot of our industry has rallied behind just being open source with the right license. I'll pull it in and I'll ship it. And then ideally we get CVEs and hopefully the right people do the right thing. But I think something's going to change. I think at some point, companies are going to want to know who you are. And if you don't meet their requirements, they probably won't allow you to contribute. Will one day software developers require a license to contribute to large, well-known open source projects? I think that future will come for sure. There's projects like SigStore where you sign and verify, but none of this works unless your reputation's on the line. And the only way we can get to your reputation is people probably going to force you to identify yourself. And I've seen this in some open source communities already, where if you're from a certain country and you try to contribute, they'll tell you, we apologize, but we cannot take contributions because you're a citizen of the wrong country. And as software starts to get even more ingrained into our lives, it's no longer just fun and technology. It becomes political. The way we govern ourselves, because now we're building decision engines, not just experiences that you click around and move on to the next product, but these things are starting to account for more of the things that happen. So I think as a software developer, the professionalism bar is going to have to go way up. And I think that's going to change the game quite a bit. Every keystroke will matter because your name will be attached to it. And what happens if they decide that, like the doctors and lawyers, that we can be sued for malpractice? Will that be a thing? So something to chew on, that I think we had an extreme amount of power for the last 30 to 40 years, and we got away with a lot. But I think our field is starting to mature to a point where things will change. So stay excited, but I do think that it will change, that this will be taken way more serious. I on purpose left 20 minutes because the Q&A section is always my favorite. Any questions, fair game, have nothing to sell you, and I promise thorough and honest answers. And this is the end of the presentation part before we move on to the QA. Thank you.
Hello. Just on your last point, I'm interested to get your view on whether enterprise, so large organizations that really do have some of those concerns about regulation and the legalities of using open source. Do you see OSPOs being an integral part of how maybe they address that?
Honestly, I worked in financial services, and when I got there, I was like, oh, this is the big leagues. There's audits, and there's all this compliance. And I watched the worst security practices in the world get a rubber stamp so they could do business. And I don't know if auditors are enough anymore. Most auditors will relax standards so that people can do business. It's more, to me, these days, it's more like due diligence. I did enough. We've created a checklist. We bought vendors A products. We used it based on their documentation. Not solely my fault. When I was at Google, this did come up. What if we told the world how bad it was? The problem is no one has a solution. There's no solution right now. Right now, it's just like red, yellow, green, make it turn green, right? And if it turns green, that's enough to get the due diligence stamp. You are secure as far as you know it. But we know that that's not security. That's compliance. The security practice, I think, now will involve, at least on the sovereignty level, who are you? And I think that who are you will inform ourselves that, do we even want this software? This is why I think Red Hat is so successful. Red Hat provides a little bit of that. Red Hat says, if we repackage it and ship it to you, we will be the first level of accountability. We will fork it and patch it if necessary. And I think a lot of people that build software don't understand that that security component, that kind of guarantee, that is the warranty. That's the software warranty that we don't talk about quite a bit. So I do think at some point, whether it's the enterprise or your government, someone's going to ask, how will you honor this warranty? And I think as you're going to be an individual developer with your own individual software project that you want to have control over, I do think at some point you're going to have to provide a bit. And this is already happening, actually. There are people who manage some large open source projects. They're getting forms that they need to be filling out for other countries. Like, hey, country A needs you to fill out this 30-page set of form. You're like, who are you to ask me to fill out this form when I'm just contributing in my spare time? So there's no authority to enforce that. This happens, so you see the forks, and you see foundations now step in to fill out these forms on behalf of these maintainers, because someone's going to have to eventually do this stuff. So it's already here. I just don't know how fast it's going to spread across the spectrum. But a lot of these are very key projects. Now, when I see people saying there's Kubernetes on fighter jets, that sounds a little dangerous. You're one YAML parser bug away from failed mission. And so I think that we probably need to take this a little bit more serious than we currently are. And I don't think everyone's ignoring it. It's just that the cat's out of the bag, and there is no immediate solution. So we're going to have to progressively get there. And I do think secure supply chain is a good place to start. Let's get at least to where we have VIN numbers where we can trace things back to their origin, and then we can go from there. Great question.
Hey, I was wondering, for this future that you're talking about with regards to identity, whether or not you think the proliferation of like vibe coding or AI-generated coding will accelerate us into a necessity for identity, or whether people will get so excited with the acceleration and will forget about identity for a while until some serious stuff occurs.
You know this has happened already, right? What is your compiler doing? It's generating a lot of code that you don't understand. A lot of it. And then it does it for every CPU and hardware combination. You don't understand it. And so we didn't go off the deep end when that happened, right? There's a big disconnect between what's on GitHub and what actually runs. So we've been here before. That person could always, like, let's be honest, you know how many people were copying and pasting the majority of their software for the last decade? Let's not act like Stack Overflow wasn't a thing. And so now we've automated the Stack Overflow loop, right? Some people would say autocomplete was their first foray into this. Standard libraries are almost a template of way you do things. So we've been in this space before, but just how do you hold people accountable? So it's less about how a software developer gets a snippet of code onto the page. To me, that one's like, we've been battling that one for a very long time. To me, it's more of the accountability component. So far, we've been effectively, if you think about most software, and I would go to these big enterprises and like, hey, Kelsey, you don't understand the type of software we're building. I said, okay, let me try it. I'm gonna close my eyes. I don't wanna look, I don't wanna cheat. Data comes in. You do something in the middle, and you send data back out. They're like, how do you know? It's like, because that is computation, data and functions, that's it. You can combine it in any way you want. So I don't look at this stuff as like super new to me. When people show me all of these new things, I'm trying to avoid the acronyms, by the way. I didn't mention it one time in my talk, and I won't fall victim in the Q&A either. But when people show me the magic, and I was like, so what does it output? And they show me the same code that we were writing before. Now, this is still an achievement. I'm not trying to undermine it. But until the computer changes, this all looks very similar to me. Just a different way of doing it. The part where I think is going to get really interesting is when you unleash these things to your actual customer. Most of us have been working really hard to keep a machine deterministic. If you put in this data, you're going to get ideally this back. That's what we've worked really, really hard to do. But what happens when we don't know? I'm not sure how you got that plane ticket. You paid $2 for a flight from the US to the UK? How did this happen? That would be considered a bug traditionally. Right now, it's like vibe code. It's like, hey, you got this. The agent decided. It must be right. Right? And so humans do put safeguards. Like, if you don't get to walk around and say everything that comes to mind. You're regulated by the culture in which you live. There are certain things you just can't say. So you learn to regulate yourselves. And I think software will also continue to have that. So this whole vibe coding thing where you just do whatever and check in whatever, eventually someone's gonna give you some feedback, right? And that feedback could be, you're fired. Like, what is this? It's like, man, the vibe, bro. Let's go to Patrick, and then we'll swing it back over. Let's get some of this side. So we'll go to Patrick, and then we'll go back to that side.
Thanks, Kelsey. In my head, there's a little bit of a paradox. In the beginning, you say we're reinventing the wheel over and over again. I've seen the same thing, obviously. But on the other hand, we have the power of open source, where it's part of it is reinventing things differently, right? So isn't it natural, or would you do something different? Or can we do something different to stop reinventing the wheel, or anything there?
No, reinvent the wheel. Don't let anyone tell you any different. Reinvent the wheel. The fact that I can go to a new Italian restaurant and they try it differently, and then it becomes my favorite Italian restaurant. They just did something slightly different. That is part of being human. Your creativity actually matters. It gets very stale if we stop reinventing the wheel. It just gets boring. We should make no more movies because they've all been made before. There are no new stories. But sometimes we like the fact that people approach an existing story in a slightly different way. Music is the same way. I just want to hear it again, right? Different people fall in love, and then I would love for those people to describe it. In open source, I remember when Kubernetes came out, and before that, we had Mesos, and people thought Mesos was going to be the end game. We thought Cloud Foundry was going to be the end game. No one thought OpenStack was going to be the end game, except for the people working on OpenStack. But there was a thing, and I'm so glad that the Kubernetes people decided to reinvent the wheel. And I think that is just natural progress. Reinvent the wheel. Just know that you're doing it. That's usually the problem I have. When people invent something, it's like, wow, look at this. I can like look in files for things like, dude, there's a command for that already installed in your computer. And so I think that's the part. So know that you're doing it and just reinvent the wheel with intention. And I think that's how you end up with something slightly better. So you should be able to explain, yes, these other projects exist, but here's my take on it. And I think that just leads to a better evolutionary path. So I'm a big fan of reinvent the wheel, but just know you're doing it. So if you're in an enterprise and you're getting paid to get something done by Friday, maybe you don't spend the first 4 days creating a library that already exists. That may not be the best use of time, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't revisit to see if you could create another one. I think that's the whole reason why I stayed in the industry so long.
Up next here.
Okay.
Hey, I just wanted to talk about software provenance and open source. So I do open source libraries myself, and companies will come to me and be like, hey, I'd love you to do this thing. And I'm like, it's free, as in beer. You know, what do you want from me? I'm not a support contract. So there's an element of, I do use my real name for my open source engineering, but there's an expectation from companies for the free lunch. So kind of that relationship, I think, needs to change also with companies, I think, when it comes to provenance.
Yeah, like, look, when I had ConfD, I'm rocking, I'm happy, I'm seeing the stars go up. I'm waking up, I'm like, babe, wake up, wake up. She's like, what? I just crossed 4,000 GitHub stars. She's like, well, what? Who cares? But I remember that weekend, someone that works at a large company is like, hey, I work at a big financial company that makes lots of money, and we would like you to implement a new feature that we need for free. I was like, issue closed, no response, just close it. Because I do think there's a disconnect. And I think this part where we believe that all of our open source projects need to have contributions and communities, I don't think that's actually true. I think there is value in just sharing. So I think the people who are being really responsible with open source, there's a guy that I follow. He, in his repositories, he says, I am not accepting any contributions. I have no aims to do anything other than to share with you. If you want to fork it and do something else, so be it. And I think for us as maintainers, we have to do a better job too of saying, I don't want this to be big. I'm not printing any stickers, and I'm not creating a Slack channel. What you see is what you get, and there will be nothing more. And I know sometimes it kind of feels hard to ignore issue. You see all these new feature requests, you're excited people are using your stuff, but you also have to be honest with yourself and say, I don't want to set the wrong expectation here. There will be no support. And it took me about 6, 7 years to just stop contributing to my own open source projects. Just let them go. Hit the archive button. So I think it goes both ways. I think I've set the wrong expectations sometimes by putting libraries out there without a clear README. But most people don't read anyway, so but at least we could do that part.
Hi, I just wanted to talk about, because you mentioned the future, and doesn't really say how far into the future. And you mentioned the accountability or the integrity of the producer. I'm going to generalize here and show my age, but how do you see the future when we bring the human element in, which will probably be Generation Z, and with the attention span of 7 seconds? How does that play into the whole integrity, security, and all the things we're talking about, the risk of the future of software development?
Whose future are we talking about? I think that's I was listening to some scientific podcast, and I don't remember the theory, so if you went to school for physics or something, do not come at me. But they were like, if two people were to observe the same kind of view of some galaxy, one was standing still and they look up, and the other person ran to the exact same spot as them and they look up at the same time, they will see 200 years in difference. I'm pretty sure it's something Einstein figured out. But we observe the future differently. There are people right now, I remember in 2018, there was a new version of 4chan. 2018, someone was like, oh yes, the new features are here. They had an HTTP client, the whole nine. So I think it really comes down to the next generation will be the generation that will experience all the bugs and problems with the things we built. And they will look at it. I remember I went to Germany a couple years ago and I said, hey, let's talk about what happens when Kubernetes goes away. And you can just see the shock in people's face. Like, wait, Kelsey. We're only 7 years into this. What do you mean it's going to go away? I was like, if 50 years from now, we still have Kubernetes, something went awfully wrong. There's a problem here. So someone's going to have to figure out what can they do better than this. So I have a lot of hope in the next generation. They're going to look at the bugs and problems, and they're going to get new ideas like, oh, I can do better than this, right? And then hopefully they think this way, because then we're going to get stuck. So to me, that's where it goes back to the relay race. You have to pass the baton. I've worked on a lot of engineering teams, and they're not good at team building. They're trying to hire experts at every level now. Junior doesn't mean what it used to mean. A lot of developers suck at communication. They don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to explain things to people. That has to change. That part where you can actually level up the next generation is important. So to me, around the whole sovereign thing, that will be a mess, but that doesn't stop you from having an independent open source project where you don't even want to play that game. And so to me, Linus Torvalds a good example of Git and Linux, and he didn't play the go whole start a startup game, and he creates the project that he wants to exist in the world. So that's my message to the next generation. Create what you want to exist, and the tools we have are more powerful than tools than I had. So creating that future should be a little bit easier for you than it was for me. That's it. I just keep it that simple.
Yes. Hello. Oh, super. Do you mind if I record for my team? Is that all right?
Sure.
Yeah, super. Thank you. Can you do it for me? Sorry, they're very passionate. I just wanted to ask a question around inner source. Do you have any advice for a big corp that's looking to drive adoption, please?
So inner source, and I remember being taught this by some of the people who created the terminology. And inner source is this concept that, man, if you look from afar at the open source community, it seems very collaborative. Things are open. If you want to contribute, you can show up and you can contribute. And then there's processes in place so that strangers in the open source world can contribute. You can review to ensure standards. You have tests to make sure that those standards don't deviate too far. And then things get merged in. And typical in most enterprises, like, you can't look at this source code. We don't pay you to work on that. Why are you looking at that? And so then you just get the silo effect, and then things become very rigid. And even if I am bottlenecked on another team, there is no structure in place for me to come and contribute. There is no structure to teach someone else how to just switch gears for just 1 quarter to solve their own problem. And so inner source, right? Sounds great, right? Like, hey, let's take the ideas from open source and move them into the enterprise. But the enterprise is a very weird place. My experience, at least. My first enterprise job, you can wear jeans only on Friday. I was like, what does the pants do to make you produce things better? And I remember I got really good, I earned my credibility, and I wore jeans every day, and I got in trouble. And they were like, hey, you're doing fantastic work, but you have one problem. You're wearing jeans every day. What does this have to do with anything? The reason why I tell you this story is that the enterprise has a way of taking something great and putting so much policy and bureaucracy around it till it doesn't work anymore. It starts with the hiring process. We only hire the best. They have this interview process, and they make sure you're good at what you do. And then when you start, they assign you Jira tickets. And you sit there in Jira hell forever. So you've taken this bright, brilliant person, and you crush them before the first promo process. And then you go visit these enterprises, and they always say the same thing. It's the people. We don't have the right people. I was like, oh, no, you had them. You just crushed them. So when it comes to inner source, it's like, what is the philosophy? So the first thing I tell people before adopting inner source, why are you not good at collaboration now? That doesn't get talked about a lot. It's because that person needs to be fired. The bill manager needs to go. That might be a part of the equation, that because there's team building that needs to happen. I watched people, no offense, Patrick, they were not good at collaborating, and then they saw the fad of DevOps, and they just logged into LinkedIn and changed their title. I'm a DevOps engineer now. I was like, what'd you do different? I don't know. I watched Patrick give a talk. Now I'm DevOps. So I think it's a cultural thing. And so just using the words inner source is a good way to talk about deficiencies in your culture, but you still have to address the current state because there are people that are actually doing inner source without using those words. And so it's not the words that typically make the difference, it's the behavior. So go and make sure you talk about the behavior first, because if you don't, you're gonna do inner source, and about 3 to 6 weeks, it's not gonna look like that anymore. And you're gonna be off to the next thing to see if that will solve it. I think that's my time. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. Thank you.